bill is set. It's for immediate being able to hire. So we do have some funds for fiscal year 24. We've estimated, and then we've estimated fiscal year 25 and 26, and you'll see those amounts that we've estimated, and they are not in the millions.
Okay, follow up.
Go ahead.
The bulk of the money's in your 900 series for contracts. So what's the nature of those contracts? Are those actually to do the work, or so is it additional foresters above and beyond the 5 FTs? What do you envision using those funds for?
Go ahead.
Okay, Madam Chairman, Senator Hicks, what we are using most of our money for right now in the contractual side is the service contract work. So for example, we just received, we had to do a B11 before we could receive the funds on the Medicine Bow Route National Forest for the Mullen rehab work, which is 20 miles on both sides of the road, removing trees and doing hazardous work. That's a service contract. We need that authority, and that came out a little over $1 million. And so that's what we're typically using, this contractual. We put that in there to show that we're expecting to continue to have a high amount of contractual work associated with the growth of the positions.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any further questions? Further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Stick around in case some come up as we keep going. Is there any public comment in the room? Public comments in the room? Come on down. Welcome.
Good morning, Chairman Steinmetz, members of the committee. Holly Kennedy here today representing the Wyoming Association of Conservation Districts. Glad to be here today to speak in favor of this bill. We also have one of our conservation districts, the Weston County Natural Resource District, that will be providing additional testimony on how impactful these GNA positions have been in their resource district. Forests are where many of our ecosystems start. And at the risk of a bad joke, it's literally all downhill from there. Healthy forests are crucial to the work that Wyoming conservation districts conduct. A healthy forest results in healthy streams that result in a healthy landscape, clean water sources, and vibrant communities. Good neighbor authority positions are particularly important as they have the ability to be nimble and responsive in a way that federal positions often are not. They work on many projects, including post-fire restoration projects. Good neighbor authority positions in Wyoming have been crucial in getting some projects that have lingered for years due to federal staffing and other issues across the finish line and completed within the state. Our Sublette County Conservation District has seen this firsthand. Another key point that I will bring to your attention is the revenue from these projects stays within the state and helps to continue the efforts of managing forests within Wyoming. We have all seen the devastation our forests have incurred due to federal inaction. The addition of this authority and the subsequent good neighbor authority positions is one of the most singular, impactful changes to forestry management that has occurred in decades. The best hope we have to improve our forest health is through positions such as this that can utilize federal dollars to implement meaningful conservation practices without getting bogged down in the quagmire of federal red tape. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of this bill that would allow state forestry to hire more of these crucial positions to remove dead trees and help restore the health of our forests and all the downstream users that are impacted by their poor condition. We urge you to invest in conservation of our natural resources by allowing this bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions from Ms. Kennedy? Questions? Seeing none, thank you. Kim?
Thank you.
Have we allowed the 2 conservation districts online into the waiting room by chance? Would you? All right. Is there any further public comment in the room? More public comment in the room? Seeing none, we will go online then we have Caleb Carter and Shad Cooper. Caleb Carter, would you like to be first? Of the Weston County Natural Resource District.
Yes, I'm happy to do that, Madam Chairman.
Great, welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. And I would second what's already been said, and I will skip over some of the notes that I have made in order not to duplicate a lot of efforts here. But I think one of the things that really stands out to me about the GNA positions and the opportunity they provide us through state forestry and working with our partners that they've mentioned is that it really embodies the Wyoming way of boots on the ground getting the work done. And that's one of the things that I really like about the state of Wyoming, and I really appreciate when working with our partners, including state forestry, is that they're all about getting work done on the ground. And the GNA process, these positions really have embodied that and have provided a mechanism to get work done in a much more efficient process than the U.S. Forest Service and BLM can oftentimes get done. And again, I think this is not to put any blame on our local personnel in these agencies. A lot of the challenges that they face in getting these types of projects on the ground oftentimes are due to decisions or processes that are out of their control, and they are doing a fantastic job and have been great partners through the GNA process. And I know we work very closely within the conservation district world with state forestry, especially here in the Black Hills. We have a very good working relationship. And I know that they've been able to utilize the GNA process to access a lot of areas and do treatments. And I think it's important to note that it's not only logging that is being accomplished through the GNA authority, but it's also field treatments and thinnings for improving forest health as well. And so there's a variety of projects that are being accomplished. And the great thing about these is these projects are complementing other projects that the state forestry is doing, as well as projects that the Forest Service and BLM are doing on their own, as well as the conservation districts. And altogether, we're able to really make an impact that matters in our region here for maintaining healthy forests, for maintaining or mitigating wildfire danger as much as we can. And we're already seeing wildfires popping up here in the region. We just had a 1,200 plus acre fire over by Moorcroft recently. And so very important from my standpoint to maintain this and to see it grow. And I guess the last thing I would say is, as I think about increasing capacity, it either comes down to increasing time or increasing money. And I think the most efficient way to increase capacity is to increase personnel and increase time dedicated to this process that has been proven to be effective and to be efficient and getting work done on the ground in a timely manner. So I have appreciated the efforts that have been accomplished here in the Black Hills, Wyoming Black Hills region with working with these partners, and they've greatly complemented our efforts and has provided a way to utilize our industry, our timber industry, in an efficient way to be able to get this work done. So I appreciate you allowing me to provide some insight on that.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Any questions for Mr. Carter? Questions? Thank you for being with us today. Next up, Shad Cooper from the Wyoming Rural Fire District in Pinedale. Welcome, Mr. Cooper.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. As mentioned, my name is Shad Cooper. I'm the fire chief for Sublette County Unified Fire and county fire warden, and I also serve as the president of the Wyoming Rural Firefighters Association with the Fire Advisory Board. I just want to urge your favorable consideration for this important bill. Speaking as a fire chief, wildland fire risk is one of our primary considerations in Sublette County, and as has been previously provided in testimony, the Bridger Teton in Sublette County has benefited greatly from the Good Neighbor Authority projects. Specifically, there's been 4 projects in Sublette County that have been boots on the ground fuel reduction work that's actually made a difference, and I can personally attest that the importance of these Good Neighbor Authority projects is reducing the risk of wildland fire and improving the health of the forest in Sublette County. I applaud Wyoming State Forestry Division and the Wyoming Legislature for your leadership and your forward thinking to use these good neighbor authorities to actively manage our forests and to reduce the risk of catastrophic wildland fires. So thank you for your consideration, and thank you for continuing to support this. And we, as I mentioned, we actively urge your support for this bill, and thank you for your time to allow me to provide testimony.
Yes, thank you for being with us today. Any questions for Mr. Cooper? Questions for Mr. Cooper? Seeing none, thank you very much. All right, any further public comment in the room? And I think that's everyone online, isn't it, Kim? All right. Public comment is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure?
Move the bill.
Moved by French, seconded by Kolb. Are there any amendments on the bill? Any amendments? Okay, seeing none, any discussion? Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just to make it clear to the public, which wasn't made very clear during the testimony, is these monies are federal monies that are passed through from the state and administered. I think what misses the mark here is that it was not made clear that that's the case here. You might read this to think it was state money or, some other source of funding revenue. This is a pass-through program that allows it to be administered locally, making the best bang for the buck, I'd say. And I think that I want to just be very clear about this. It is not state money, and I think everybody has to do a really good job educating people. I just got educated, so I'm passing it along. Thank you for my chance to comment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Kolb. Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to push back a little bit on this. I understand the good senator from Rock Springs that it's federal money, but it's still creating more dependency on federal dollars, the taxpayer dollars, more employees. It's just a lot of what we see down here is throwing more money and more employees on a lot of agencies and just growing government. And it's, to me, it's a little unwise without, we talk about the federal partners, we've got a lot of lawsuits with them, just the Rock Springs RMP fight, others that go along with that, they're purchasing private land without the consent of the legislature, $6 million and 4 new employees. I just kind of wanted to explain my position on this. I used to work in a logging camp, and I understand that the private sector does everything better than the government does typically. So I just wanted to explain my no vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ide. And I guess I would bring Kelly, our state forester, back up and just talk again about the contractual services that we're talking about. I'm under the understanding that $5 million of this appropriation is going out to the contractors and the loggers and the people like that. And so it's not as much, but could you come up and just make sure we understand exactly what we're doing before we take a vote on this bill? And just the fiscal note that you've provided us, and that is in this handout here from the Office of State Lands and Investments, the Forestry Division, on page 2, the 900 series in contractual services, $5.5 million approximately is going out to those contractors, and then the rest is for the positions to help administer it. Is that correct?
That is correct. And you're absolutely right. This is all federal money. So even when we are bringing in timber revenue, it's federal timber revenue. But that money we're turning around through contractual and putting it back onto the ground. One example that we've done this is we received revenue in the Bighorns, in the Buffalo Municipal Watershed. We turned around and used that work to do aspen enhancement, thinning treatments, all within that municipal watershed. And so that's contractual work that we are bidding out, and then it goes and we pay a contractor to do that work.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that all up just so that we knew that, because that fiscal note was very confusing, however that happened. And so I appreciate you providing that fiscal note for us. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, okay. Senator French?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Along those lines, do you, when you bid it out, is it, do Wyoming contractors or whatever have the Wyoming, I think it's 5%, isn't it? Advantage or whatever, so anybody can bid on those contracts. But Wyoming has a, God, what's the word? Anyway, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Madam Chairman, Senator French, because it's federal money, we can't do the Wyoming Advantage. But what you're going to notice, state contracting, so it's going through our state contracting system. It's not going through the federal contracting system. And so that's a huge difference. It's a huge difference to our local contractors. Our contracts are much easier when you look at it from a timber sale contract standpoint versus a federal timber sale contract. So what we're doing is we're making this wood much more accessible to our smaller local contractors who typically work with us. And they're only bidding on these sales because state forestry is typically putting these contracts out. And so it truly is an advantage to Wyoming when we do these sales. I believe all of the sales, for example, in the Uinta Wasatch Cache, that's going to South and Jones. The sales that are on the BT are all local contractors. Everything that was in the Bighorns went, some of it from the Crater Ridge fire went into the basin, into local contractors there in the basin. And in the Black Hills, most of that's also going to very local contractors in that area. So we also, in the Medbo route, again, same thing, because they know our contracts. We also tend to get the service contractors that are local here too, because again, they know our systems. And so it's when we have a system, they know to show up, they know how to bid. We have a much easier system to bid for them. And we don't have all of this red tape. And so that's the biggest difference too, is using this system.
All right, thank you very much. All right. Go ahead, Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one last comment. I think it's all good and well-intended. The big issue I have is this dependency on federal dollars. I mean, our federal government is deficit spending at the tune of $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion as far as the eye can see. And someday that, it's the law of gravity, that has to stop sometime. So my opinion is we need to be more self-conscious of doing everything with just state dollars right now. I mean, we're complicit in adding to that federal deficit. Our federal government's insolvent. So thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Senator Ide. And with that, Kim, would you please call the roll?
Roll call vote, House Bill 43, do pass. Senator French?
Aye.
Senator Hicks?
Aye.
Senator Ide?
No.
Senator Kolb?
Aye.
Senator Larson left an absentee I vote. And Chairman Steinmetz.
Aye.
5 ayes, 1 no.
All right, thank you very much. That bill has passed. Thank you, Chairman Boner, and we'll get worked out who's going to carry that on the floor. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 116, Sage Grouse Implementation Notice to Landowners. Welcome, Representative Angelo. We do have to be out of here by 9:30, so I'm just telling you our deadline, not to push you on along quickly, but if we can't make it through this bill, we will have to come back upon adjournment, but hopefully we can make it through. Welcome, Director Bud, and could you please take us through your good little bill?
Thank you, Chairman Steinmetz. Thank you, committee. I will be very brief because this bill is very brief. Basically, what this does is it kind of solves an issue that I had in my own district this last year, and it kind of spread throughout the state with the sage grouse implementation teams. We did some, they did some modifications on the core area maps, and they were following their protocol. They did exactly what they needed to do. However, something that we realized that was not in their duties was notifying landowners and or surface owners on if their properties were going to be put into a revised map, and then public notice. So that was the biggest comment that I got from my constituents was, we just want to be notified if that's going to happen. And in talking with the agency and talking with Director Bud, we realized that was something we needed to create within the duties. So basically, all that, you'll see that, all of the, on page 2, all of the underlined will be added. And basically, asking for no less than 45 days before making a recommendation to the governor that a written notice will be sent by first class. And then if you go down to the little eyes there, not less than 30 days before making a recommendation to the governor, giving opportunity for public comment. So that's really all it does. And I'll stand for questions.
All right, any questions?
Madam Chairman,
Go ahead.
so if we go over to page 2, I'm worried about the inconsistencies I see in the bill. So if you go to line 8, it says all affected surface owners whose interests, underlying interests may be affected. And then when we go down to line 12, well, line 11, it says that this is the recommendation of the governor that their rights of surface owners. I'm not sure what the consistency is between interest and rights. And then when we get back down into Romanet 2, now we're just may affect surface owners. So one provision that says the interest may be affected, and the other one, the rights of the surface owners, and then just may affect surface owners. So to me, there's a difference between somebody's interest and somebody's rights, and I'd just like some clarification on that, because right now it doesn't make any sense to me. So what are we trying to get to here?
Madam
right, go
Chairman.
ahead, yep.
Senator Hicks, we actually ran an amendment in the House committee that this went through, and it was supposed to catch those, so I don't know if that was just a mistake on LSO's part of just some wording. We want it to say surface owners all the way through, because we definitely don't want to pull in 25 owners that own, mineral interest and having to do that. So that was kind of a catch, and we had worked on that. I can see where that didn't get caught. It should have been caught. So if we could run.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm not getting it as the difference between the surface and the subsurface owner. I'm trying to understand what the difference between somebody's interests are. I have a lot of interests. They may not have a right. And then when we talk about rights, what rights are we talking about? Because if you're a surface owner, you have a whole bundle of rights. Is it all of those rights? So I'd just like some clarification and the differential in the language. And there's 3 places where I see some inconsistencies. So what are we trying to specifically address?
Representative, would you like to phone a friend? I see the director's up here with you, and we'd be glad to let him visit about this as well. All right, Director.
Madam Chair, Bob Budd, Director of Wildlife Natural Resource Trust, Chairman of the Sage Grouse Implementation Team. First and foremost, we're in complete agreement with the bill and we support it. And to the question Senator Hicks raised, I think this is a transcription error because these amendments were made throughout there. It should just say notify surface owners. That's what the intent is, and that's what we thought came out of the House committee. So if you want to correct that, that would remove the question of interest, which would include a banker who holds a mortgage or somebody who has a lease or whatever, and that, we thought we had that out, so that's an error. I think that would be a friendly amendment. We'd encourage that.
All right, and we'll track that down because committee, if you notice, when I got here this morning, there's 3 different bills. There's the one we started with, there was the engrossed bill, which is the green copy, and then there's a purple copy that's a corrected copy. And so it is a bit confusing, and I think when we have a little bit more time, we can go to staff and just get a little bit more help figuring out.
Madam Chair,
how
I'm
that all
happy to help with
interacts.
that if you'd like.
All right, perfect. All
So
right.
the next
More
question I
questions?
have is this puts a duty on the sigil. When you start mailing these out to all potentially affected surface owners, and I don't see any fiscal note associated. So where's the money come from to provide all these notices?
All right, go ahead, whoever wants to take that.
There should be a fiscal note on there. Again, I don't know where
I
that.
think Senator Hicks, on the original bill, the white copy on the very back, there is an administrative impact. It's not an actual fiscal note. But, and thank you to our good secretary, Kim, who has provided us all this information at our disposal. So it's right here is the fiscal note, and it is administrative impact. So,
Madam Chair, if I may.
yes, go ahead.
I think if the question is where would that responsibility lie? The statute is directed at the governor's office. The CIGIT is advisory to the governor. So when we worked the fiscal note out, we worked it out with the governor's office. It would probably require some administrative help to get those out. But we did that after the fact or late this year or in 2023. And what did it take? Probably a week. We had everybody notified. It's not a heavy lift if you keep it to surface owners. And that's what the intent was. So
It does say the governor's office on the fiscal note.
Correct.
So that is where the impact would come from, Senator Hicks. So if that helps. All right. Any further questions? Further questions? All right, seeing none, we will go to public comment. If you guys would like to stick around a little bit, we would sure appreciate that. Is there any public comment on this bill? And Kim, it looks like we have someone online for this as well. Ms. Peterson had signed up for this one as well, I believe. So if you wanna
Madam
make
Chairman,
sure
she's no longer.
She's no longer with us. Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Madam
McGagnon.
Chairman. Again, Jim McGagnon would emphasize the importance of this bill to us, but the only point I would make is that this didn't become necessary because of a failure on the part of CIGIT. What happens is they meet regularly and have been meeting for several years, and most of their meetings are rather routine and don't propose something like major changes to sage-grouse core areas. So this past year, when they went into much more depth in an effort to counter what we fear would be coming from the federal level, from the BLM and their sage-grouse management, landowners were just used to those meetings being held, even though the meetings are announced, didn't recognize the need to become engaged early in the process. And I think this is critically important in that when there's something like that going to happen that would affect the private lands, that they're given direct notice so they can engage as early as possible in the process. With that, we just urge your support for the bill.
All right, thank you, Mr. McGagnon. Questions for Mr. McGagnon? Seeing none? All right, any more public testimony? One more, come on down. And if anyone else is coming, please come up forward. We have only a few minutes left. Go ahead.
Madam Chairman, Rob Hendry, I'm a landowner in western Natrona County, in Fremont County, and Washakie County. And I think we first heard about the expansion of the core area on Facebook. And we would have really rather heard about it before. And maybe it's our fault, we were asleep at the wheel. But that's how we found out about it. And our country's an old country. We've been there since 1906. Our neighbors down the creek that was in the legislature been there since 1906. We don't change hands a whole lot up in our country. Part of the area, and we could have really given a lot of information to the committee. The LECs around our headquarters are already in a conservation easement. And so they're pretty well protected. And I would say on our south end of our place, down around Gas Hills, on Sage Hen Creek is not listed in the new area. And that probably is a better area to be listed than the one that they did. So we really stand in support of this. We'd like to know what's going on our own place. Thank you.
Of course, thank you, Mr. Hendry. Go ahead, Ms. Kennedy.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Holly Kennedy with Wyoming Association of Conservation Districts. I recognize we're under a time crunch, so I will be extremely succinct and say WACD supports the bill.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none, go ahead.
Morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Catherine Stahl. I work with Powder River Basin Resource Council. We are also in support of the bill. We really appreciate the effort to increase public understanding of and participation in CIGIT's processes. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, any further public testimony? Kim, anyone online? All right, we've lost our person online. So public testimony is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure on the bill? Moved by Ide,
Second.
seconded by Kolb. Are there any amendments?
Madam Chairman,
Yes. Senator Hicks.
page 2, line 8.
Page 2, line 8. Please turn on your microphone so everyone can hear you. State your amendment.
Page 2, line 8. After owners strike whose interest, and insert that.
Okay,
So that will leave mailed to all service owners that may be affected. Go
Kim,
down,
did you get that? All right,
page 2, line 12. Strike the rights of the. So now that's going to read the governor and how the recommendations may affect surface owners. That's it. Then it conforms with Romanet B. I do have additional language, I think, to meet the intent. So if you go to page 2, line 16, after public, insert meeting for the purpose of receiving comments. Right now, that could be an online meeting hosted in a committee, and so I think the intent is to have a public meeting for the purpose of receiving comments and not less than one community. So,
all right.
After
Does
pub-
everyone understand the amendment? Why don't you go through, okay, it's been moved by Hicks, seconded by Ide. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Kim, did you get the amendment?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Okay, any discussion? Discussion, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Opposed, no. That amendment has been adopted. Is there any further amending on the bill? Further amendments on the bill? Seeing none. Any discussion on the bill? Discussion on the bill, seeing none. Kim, would you please call the roll?
House Bill 116 as amended. Senator French,
Aye.
Senator Hicks,
Aye.
Senator Ide,
Aye.
Senator Kolb,
Aye.
Senator Larson left a aye vote, and Chairman Steinmetz.
Aye.
6 ayes.
All right, thank you, Representative, and I'm assuming Senator Barlow will carry that on the floor. All right, thank you very much. All right, with that, this will be the close of this meeting. We will discuss interim topics on Tuesday morning next week. We will not have the need for an evening meeting today, as the gun bill we were anticipating is not coming to us. It's staying in judiciary, and we were able to get through all of these bills this morning. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you at the interim committee meeting.